Hey Pisces, this is your May 24 soul story. If you've got a sun rising or your moon is in the sign, you might find these messages help you through the next few weeks. It's Romy. I appreciate you joining me. We are going to open up with the energy of the Ace of Swords for you. We're all being tested in different ways right now, and May is one of these months in the year where I foresee there is somewhat of a breather or a breakthrough, something that is going to help you to navigate the personal circumstances that you find yourself in. We don't have to do it perfectly, and you've got new energy coming in with this ace that offers some clarity and an opportunity to kind of take stock and consider what your emotional response is going to be. Much went on in the last few weeks, and you owe it to yourself now in this more grounded energy of Taurus season to take back control of the ship, if you like, remembering that if you are having to turn it around or take a new direction, that can also take a little bit of time to get back into a position where you feel like progress is moving again. So we see the clarity of the ace arriving, and as Pluto stations retrograde from the 2nd into Aquarius, we're going to be using these next few months, as we do every year, to reflect on areas around power and control and some of the tendencies and compulsions, addictions that we have that we're realizing now are no longer serving us, and we're really prepared to deal with and to face. May is definitely a month where we're able to have some of the harder conversations, and having come through that Mercury retrograde and the intensity of both the eclipse and the conjunction, May just gives us a little bit of steady ground to kind of really assess how we feel and be a little bit more deliberate and mindful in how we want to articulate and communicate with others, now that perhaps some of the emotions, some of the intensity of the emotions are giving us a little bit of a reprieve. Now, you are going to have necessary conversations, and I do think you're going to find a new approach in terms of the way that you want to commit to something that's wholly necessary, because there's bigger realizations that have happened for you of late. You're certainly still soul seeking, and I think, we also need to be aware that, through the month of May, we're invited to take action. So you want to keep planting, even if you're still working through something, trying to figure something out, in the permission that you give yourself to keep moving. You will start to find that progress can be really beautiful. If you find yourself in that place of stagnancy or standstill, it can end up becoming a continuing theme of frustration that you might have fell into in April. Now, the Two of Swords here right after the Ace is also telling us that once we've had that realization, that clarity, it puts us in a new place energetically. We're aware that we can no longer keep exhausting ourselves over the same things. We may feel like we've had enough, but when is it enough? Like, where do we draw that line? What is that boundary? And, we need to also be mindful of the fact that it's not always about what has been achieved or not. It's about what runs through us. So let's remember that through this experience, through what you've been able to cultivate enough patience, enough resilience, enough faith, enough strength and trust, and ultimately love and compassion for yourself. Now, as we approach the new moon in Taurus on the 7th, there's some really beautiful creative energies that are working with you, not against you. And if you can look at it in that way, again, even if something comes up that says, I need to do this in a different way, or all of a sudden I'm not feeling that in the same way I once did, or I don't have the heart anymore. The realization can be a beautiful thing, but there might be some aspects to it that you're also feeling like, oh my goodness, like, why could I not have come to that conclusion sooner? Or why did this information or this energy not arrive when I was asking for it, or I needed it, back whenever. And yet at the same time, there's quite a refreshing and a amenable sort of energy that kind of comes along that just says, okay, you know, I am where I am, and now I'm going to use this and I'm going to make the most of it. And remember, you know, as we move through Taurus energy, you're in your third house, which means that there's often like temporary setups or temporary circumstances that we have to look at in order to kind of get from A to B. And so you might find that you're accepting things or even having to endure certain things before what needs to happen clicks in. And strength tells me that, again, you'll be able to manage this, you'll be able to cope and to have the required amount of fortitude or tenacity to be able to just make sense of these circumstances and honestly like make them work for you. And I think that's one of the most important themes that I get through for Pisces and me. It's just like, I'll take what's around me, I'll take where I am, and I'll make it work. And I think it's also an important reminder that, you know, if you find yourself in the place where you're constantly trying to look back and regain the state of how it used to be, you know, of sort of capturing once more through nostalgia or just through the comfort or the improved circumstances that you may have felt previously in any area of your life, and you're trying to figure out, how do I get back to that? That's one of the things that we're going to be working to release through this month of May, because we're not trying to go back anywhere. We're trying to make sense of where we are and then adapt and learn how to thrive moving forward. And right to support us in that, the asteroid goddess Ceres actually stations retrograde in Capricorn on the 14th. And she's teaching us in this cycle how to survive, you know, and there's very much this emphasis around the Capricorn energy in that 10th house of, you know, public image. And so there's a lot going on as you sort of shapeshift around your identity and you're considering who you want to be, how what you're doing and how you're showing up is perceived. But, you know, this transit with Ceres, how to survive, it's also really the kind of acute awareness of how the external environment is trying to direct our focus more and more and more in certain directions, and that how hard it can be to have to stand strong in that and to maintain and sustain your, not only your own balance, your own kind of regulated nervous system, but also your optimism, your belief, your hope, your joy, your creative inspiration about what can be and what will be. And your visions are so important, not just for you personally, but for the collective as a whole, in order to help shape and direct that. Now, the Queen of Pentacles tells me you want to invest and put your time and energy into something. That's why I'm saying keep planting the seeds, even if you're working through and figuring and trying to come to a decision. You know, may be a month that you can figure it out and come to a clear conclusion. It also might be a month where more and more information shows up and it's information gathering, and you're just still kind of, I'm not quite ready, but I'm feeling my way and getting closer to something. But in the meantime, you know, Queen of Pentacles here saying, you know, there's still things that we need to deal with here. We can't just let everything slide. We can't just sit back and kind of feel the sense of like, I just have to wait till this decision comes to me before I'm going to be in a position to do anything. That's not really going to serve you in this first part of the month. 10 of Wands in the center of your reading tells me that, you know, what you're embarking upon, what you've got going on for you, there are aspects to it that do feel quite heavy and cumbersome right now. There are parts of your life that are feeling drudgery. There are parts that you're desperately wishing you could break free and release yourself from. And yet there's something in how the experience is shaping you. And more than anything, I think right now, what we're all being taught and we're all being tested in regards to is resiliency. What do we do in the face of these adversity situations? You know, where do we dig deep? Where do we find the courage? Where do we find the capacity to be able to strengthen our faith? Yeah, and I think these are some of the things that you're really learning in a self-directed way. You know, you're asking those big questions of you because you're the one that's gonna, you know, have to learn and adapt and continue to put in place those mechanisms that are going to support you to be able to thrive in the new chapters that are arising moving forward. It also tells me that something that you've been working on, you're almost at the point of completion. We're almost there with something, and it may feel that the last mile is the hardest, and yet you're just right on the precipice of being able to kind of bring that to some point of conclusion. You know, we have some really beautiful aspects showing up in May that I think are incredibly supportive and good to hear. You know, on the 18th, the Sun and Jupiter make an alignment that's talking about growth and opportunity, and some synchronicity coming in that will be, you know, very much welcomed on your part. So it's a beautiful date to be mindful of. And as we move into Gemini season, we are also going to approach the full moon in Sagittarius on the 23rd, which equally has some aspects that are going to be super supportive for you. There's new visions that seem to be emerging, and the sense of something coming to that point of conclusion. Venus making some interesting debates running around that full moon. And your Two of Pentacles tells me, again, you're weighing up. I mean, we look at the twos showing up here, and you're definitely still in this deep consideration and reflection over something. Just make sure you don't let it exhaust you. I think this is the thing that I really want you to be aware of. And you know what? Things don't have to be done perfectly through the course of this month. We're all a little bit rough around the edges. And I think if we can lean into a greater tolerance and compassion of where we are right now, you're going to find the experience of May can be one that's deeply supportive rather than feeling like it's consistently bringing up blocks for you. The full moon in Sagittarius also sees you almost having to split your energy in multiple directions, and that in and itself feeling challenging to you. It's like, gosh, you know, all of these things need my attention. Everything feels like a priority. Where do I go with this? Because I'm mindful that I have like a really limited amount of energy at this moment in time to be able to give and to invest. And so, you know, some, again, more difficult decisions that need to come from a place of honesty that says, you know, what is genuinely sustainable for you? There's no point in moving forward into something that you know is very quickly going to burn through something or burn out something. And, you know, this is where we kind of take stock and we're like, okay, there might have to be a sacrifice or a compromise that I'm going to need to make here. And that might not please everybody, but nonetheless, there does seem to be an upside that comes in with it quite quickly. And again, you'll have the strength and the wherewithal to be able to have those kind of conversations and realize for yourself the importance of what you just did actually quite quickly, because you'll feel like the relief in your body, you know, when you come to that conclusion and consideration, and you know you've done right by yourself, even if there's a little bit of guilt that resides in terms of the impact to others. There's such a sense of lightness within you, and that's the thing to kind of hold on to. We also have on the 25th Jupiter, of course, moving signs out of Taurus into Gemini. So the energy changes, starts to move in an incredibly rapid way through this sign. Of course, Jupiter in Gemini, you know, talks to us about a flooding of new information coming in, right? And with that, there is this like deepening debate of sort of, you know, what's real, what's fake, what's true, what's authentic. And it can be hard because that sort of splintering off, you know, starts to cause us almost like some overwhelm and confusion as to where we, you know, align, where our allegiances are, what we choose to believe. And so, you know, my advice sort of building up to that change and knowing that this is, you're going to be working with this energy for the next few months and into next year, is to reassess what your values are, to reassess where you are allowing and absorbing different energy to come through. And just knowing that, you know, it can be an incredibly beneficial place if you're choosing to express and communicate and get things out there, the capacity for that to move quickly, and, you know, for that knowledge to expand is wonderful. But I think it's necessary to sort of find where your neutral sits so that you're not sort of blowing around in the breeze and just feeling like there's no anchor point as things move and change and shapeshift dramatically over these next few months. Now, if you're new to the channel, Pisces, the last 3 cards we look at in the extended version of my reading talk for another 30 minutes or so. We'll look at a relationship and a personal question for you. You're also Find that link in the comment and description box underneath, so I hope you'll join me. I'm just going to go ahead and clarify the cards, see the direction that we'll be taking some of those messages in for you, to look into May a little bit more deeply. Now you can go check out on my website romywiser.com. You'll find my sacred titles, my oracle deck, and my book Moon Musings. You'll also find ways to work with me, my sacred soul support, which is all the guided meditations I create for your spiritual journey, my membership group. So everything is over there. Again, the links are beneath. Beautiful cards coming through there with the World, the Wheel of Fortune, got the Tower showing up with that energy of strength. Six of Cups, Four of Swords. What about this Ten of Wands for you? Six of Wands, Page of Swords, okay. High Priestess. Five of Coins, okay. All the decks I use are always listed below, Pisces. Bit of juggling going on with that 2 and 5, but the High Priestess is kind of keeping you on track. You know, you will notice more than ever like how tuned in you are, like how telepathically you're just aware of what people are thinking, what they're about to say, more than you ever have before. Your own psychic senses getting stronger. So this is Life Soul Vision, my own deck. We've got Spirit Bear, Ancestral Protection, and Spirit Wolf. We've got Sacral Energy coming through. We've got Blossoming Soul Song, Spirit Stag, all the animals coming through for you this month, and Crown Energy. Beautiful cards showing up there. Okay, let's have a look at a couple more oracle cards for Pisces for the month of May. What do we have? Generosity coming through here. And then finally, we've got the Fall. Okay, thanks for being here. I hope you will come on to the extended. I appreciate your investment. It helps me to continue showing up on the channel. I'm going to see you again next month. Take good care. Bye for now.